I've had these OxyLEDs, or OxyLED light strips for about maybe 2 years now. They still seem to sell them. I bought smaller versions of these that are like half the length. And what has happened after about a year of use in an area where it's kind of cold is the runtime on these has dropped drastically. Before, I'd get in a closet in a kind of colder area, maybe 2 weeks to a month with regular usage. And now they're just like a week to a week and a half, and then they just get really dim. And I wanted to take it apart to see what battery it uses. I have some of these batteries, which are 3.7 volt, 350 milliamp hour batteries that are coming out of a smaller version of these, which will be in another video project as I convert them over to this. I'll get into that more in that specific video, but the amp hour is quite small. It's 350 milliamp hour at 3.7 volts. You're getting about I had it written down somewhere. Back of the napkin, good stuff. So this is 3.7 volt DC at 350 milliamp hour was 1.295 watt hour. So for the little one, which will be shown in another video, I just bought one of these battery boxes and got some Eneloop Pros and 1.2 volts in series with 3 other cells. Gives you about 3.6 volts nominal at about 2.5 amp hour per cell. So in this pretty small package, I was able to get 9 watt hours in this box as opposed to what was previously giving about 1.2 watt hours. And you may say, well, this is insanely large compared to the small battery. Why couldn't you just get a bunch of these? I couldn't find any cells from a supplier that I could get in a size small enough to fit inside that really small enclosure. And I wanted really long runtime. So I got packs of 4 of these for like $5. I actually ended up buying 2 packs of them, so I have 8 of these enclosures with switches on them, on-off switches, and tinned leads for like what, 50 or $1 each. So and in the area that I'm installing them, I can mount these nicely with the light, and those lights were going about 1 to 2 weeks on a charge. So now I'm hoping with my quick math here, about a 7-time increase in capacity to get to somewhere between 12 and 14 weeks on a single charge. So only having to fiddle with this once every 2 to 3 months is preferred. And then just pulling the batteries out and throwing them in the charger. Or the way I had it wired up in the test configuration I have so far, you could technically plug in USB and kind of charge the rechargeable batteries very, very slowly from the onboard charger. But it's meant for lithium ion, so it would never fully charge the batteries. But anyways, I digress. That's for another project for another video, but just kind of wanted to show and tell things that I picked up. I wanted to just take this apart, see what's inside, see what the battery is that's in it, and see what modifications might be made to improve its runtime. One idea I had thought was to pull all the batteries out of the pretty new, smaller OxyLEDs and use those in parallel to beef up the output of this, because the battery in it is just kind of, it's running down. So let me get some tools. These are using, I believe, the Tri-Wing tip, which I do have. It's funny, I always look at this and I get that's it. They never look, to me they don't look like Tri-Wing until you actually pull it out and look at it and go, oh yeah, that's the right size, or the right shape. So, not sure if I mentioned this before in a previous video, but I don't typically use my ratchet or like a screw bit driver because I I find that just using this applies, there's enough slip in your hand to not over torque things when you're putting things back together. That usually is plastic on plastic or plastic on metal. So it's kind of a thing I've just started doing where I really only just use the bit driver and the little socket converter to give enough, I guess, mechanical advantage to be able to open things up without stripping things or plastic on plastic interfaces. Now in this case it's plastic, I believe, that's screwed into, oops, that's popping right out. That's interesting. I guess it was clipped in or something? But in this case it's plastic that is threaded into aluminum. Pretty sure this is aluminum. It's funny, I said what I just said, and this is actually the harder screws to get out. Ooh, there's a lot of pieces. Out like that. Move the QC pass sticker. Like I said, I used these for about 2 years, and the battery life was very good on them. It was about, I would say on average, 2 to 3 weeks. You probably could get up to 4 weeks. And it was in a door that, in a closet that was being opened and closed quite often. So there was quite a bit of activity, and the battery lasted quite a long time. So I'm imagining it's quite a larger battery than this. Hopefully double the capacity of this, but you'll see. This is a little metal or steel piece for sticking to the magnetic strip, because this is aluminum and isn't going to stick to anything magnetic. So I believe these two just slide apart, just like the other one I took apart, which will air after this video. There's a little lens here that diffracts the, this is an emitter and a receiver, and you have a lens that spreads that beam out, that infrared beam out. And then there's a receiver that looks for a change in the infrared pattern. And then when it does, that detects that as movement and turns the light on. So, slide these pieces out. These actually come out way more easily than the smaller ones. And they're a little different. They're like frosted. They have a different texture and they look different than the ones on the smaller assembly. And this is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 36 LEDs. And on one side we have our ambient light sensor. Oh, that can right there. So this ambient light sensor. So I think if I turn this on, if I cover this up, I think it needs to settle for a moment. Get some time to settle. I'll cover this up. No, now it's going to be cranky. Oh, I think it needs this lens. But if I have this open, it's on auto, no motion. Motion shouldn't do anything. But then if I cover this up, give it a second, and no, still don't want to turn on? Okay, guess not. For some reason it doesn't. Whoop, that's the on off switch. Anyways, let's slide this thing out and take a look inside. Not sure why it didn't. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but there is a channel. Let's see if this shows up on the. Yeah, let's get a little zoom action there. So you can see the PCB is right up against that channel. So getting it out might be a little bit of a challenge. There's a bunch of hot snots sitting on one side of this thing. And the only way I think I'm going to be able to get it out is to pry on it. The smaller one, I guess perhaps because it's bigger, they didn't want it vibrating around. Probably shouldn't talk while I'm opening up something with Velcro. Flat blade. Not sure how much you're going to be able to see this, but coming off the PCB. That's good. Really kind of silly that they big hot sound on both sides. No, only on one side, so that's good. I guess maybe just to hold it in place during manufacturing. Curious. The other one did not have that, the smaller one. Don't want to lose any of these LEDs by pushing on them too hard. Sorry, this is not on view, but very sharp aluminum edge, so apologies for not focusing this as well. I'm trying to observe where my fingers are so I do not get sliced by coarse aluminum. Okay, I think that might have done. Oh, cool! Freed. The battery was not on this side, I could see that, so jamming a screwdriver down the side of it was... Oh, this has got a big battery. That's a much bigger battery. Okay. So we've got a very nice aluminum frame. Looks like it might be anodized, like it has some kind of a nice finish on it, instead of just straight aluminum. It is not, surprisingly, this is going to be a bit of a... It looks bigger than this, but its capacity, but it's 3.7 volts, 950 milliamp hour, 3.5 watt hour. One of these batteries is only roughly 3 times the capacity of this. Yeah, less than 3 times the capacity. This is a thinner cell, it's a little bit thicker. I mean, they had all this room in this board to just, they could, for 2 times the price, just stick 3 more batteries, or 2 more batteries in here and just have 3 batteries in parallel. But they put this 3.5 watt, 3.51 watt hour battery. So even this thing I was just discussing is 9 watt hour, would give you 3 times the runtime of this. So the nice thing is, though, the battery, it is situated in such a way, they milled this out differently than the other ones, where this channel, I don't know if you can see, that this whole space is opened up. Where in the smaller one, as you'll see in the video, it's got a feature here that blocks wider cells. So you have to use this thin little cell in the smaller ones. We're not limited by that on this one. What I'm thinking is, I have 3 of these that I use in various places. One of them I'd like to keep completely integrated. It's above our entryway, and I would rather not have a battery pack sticking out. But I might take the 2 other batteries out of the other 2 full Oxy LEDs, and then mount them, and then wire them up in parallel. So that means the charge time is going to be 3 times as long, but 3 batteries of similar age, all running together in parallel to give, it's not a perfect solution, but it will give perhaps twice the runtime, because the batteries aren't, this battery I'm pretty sure is not running at 3.51 watt hours, probably somewhere in the order of maybe 2 to 2.5 watt hours, but 3 of those cells in parallel probably would give a good boost to the runtime for these, for the one that I want to keep over a door. The ones that go in the closet, I'm just going to remove those batteries and then just pop 3 AA's in here, wire this thing up, and then you've got yourself a light with a pack that'll run probably 3 to 4 times longer. And if you wanted to go crazy, you can even get the 6-cell ones, or heck, put 2 of these in parallel, and you can have, you know, that's gonna look crazy. Maybe not, who knows? But you could put 2 of these in parallel and then have even more runtime out of one of these things. It's a pretty cool design. It's unfortunate that the cell is smaller. I also think that the charging circuitry could be a little bit better to get a little more life out of these cells. But that's, again, you're not paying very much for these I think I paid $18 for one of these. It may have been, yeah, $18 for one of these. So they get 2 years out of the cell at its peak, its peak capacity, and now it's starting to fall off a little bit. I think is perfectly fine. But I don't want to just throw this stuff out. Everything except this piece works just fine. So why not fix this piece? So I think in the next video I'm gonna have all these taken apart, the other two that I have, and we'll solder it all up, take a look at it, put it all back together, and then test it out. That is coming up.